Triple Crown 24 back today with the first installment of the Super Collectors podcast. I am joined today by my dog who's coming in the room and Oakland A 915 Eric, who is a Mark McGwire Super Collector. What's your count at, Eric?
What's my comment? My count at right about 2,500, 2,510, 11, 12, something like that. I don't remember exactly. So awesome. We'll say 25.
Yeah, so he's an experienced super collector. As you can see today, we are using StreamYard. They are powering our broadcast today. So this is kind of an introductory episode, kind of give you an idea for what the format will be for future episodes. But this podcast is mostly devoted to super collectors. So a super collector is someone who focuses their collection on one specific player and tries to basically collect every single card that they can of that player. And there's some specifics. Everybody has their own player. For Eric, his is Mark McGwire. So if you do enjoy today's episode, be sure to leave your thoughts down below to continue the discussion. And if you have any suggestions for future guests that you would like to see on the show, please let me know so that I can potentially reach out to them for a future episode, or if you would like to join yourself. So I'm going to refresh my YouTube really quickly here just to make sure. Okay, looks like we're good to go. All right, so getting into our little opening act here today, we're going to be talking about how to super collect, basically the basics. And I brought a very experienced super collector in to go over that. But first, I want to share a little bit more about Eric with all of you. So, Eric, do you want to tell us how you got into collecting Mark McGwire?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so I was actually a little kid in the late 80s, right after his rookie year. I was playing Little League Baseball, and I played first base, and I batted cleanup on my Little League Baseball team. And so I kind of gravitated towards Mark because he was the Oakland A's first baseman and batted cleanup. And then also my grandpa, I really looked up to my grandpa a lot. He was the one that got me into the A's in the first place. And he seemed to be a big McGwire fan. So I gravitated towards Mark that way.
How many dingers did you hit compared to him?
No, you know what? I didn't hit anywhere near as many as he did. As a matter of fact, I would have hit a lot more when I was playing high school ball if I hadn't have copied his swing. So my batting stance wasn't exactly like his, but my swing was very close, and he hit with a lot of upper body when he was still on the A's, and I just wasn't as strong as him.
Right on. So we're going to move into our second segment, which is to learn a little bit more about the details of Eric's collection. So do you have any stats for us? Like how many one-on-ones do you have? How many autographs? How many rookies of McGwire? Just some of the basics.
You know what, to tell you the truth, I only have like one of one. And that's because I tend to focus more of my collection on the playing days McGwires. And so he's probably from playing days, he's got maybe 10. And out of all of those one of ones, I only know of one in existence. I've only heard of one. I don't know anybody else who has the other ones, and I've never seen the card. Just heard about it, you know.
Right.
So one-of-ones, yeah, I'm not a big one-of-one guy. I'm not really a huge autograph collector. I only have like 12 autographs. I'm more serial number guy. How's that?
Right on. Okay. So kind of moving on from that, you're not an autograph guy or a one-of-one guy. What are the types of cards that you really like to add to your McGwire collection?
I like the rare cards. Those are the ones that I like. Cards that you know, are either serial numbered or have like a stated print run, something that there's not a lot of copies of. Those are the cards I like chasing. And you know, it's not that I don't like McGwire autographs. I like them a lot, but they're just Max autographs tend to be pretty expensive. So I
If his
don't know.
autographs were cheaper, do you think that you'd pick up more? Because for me, I know that a lot has to do with for me personally, some of the earlier ones are a little bit cheaper, not like rookie stuff, but for Cabrera stuff, if for those who are new to the channel and watching this, I'm a Miguel Cabrera super collector. A lot of his 2004, 2005 autographs are a lot cheaper than the ones that you see today with him in a Tigers uniform. So have you noticed that with McGwire? Is that like any of his earlier stuff maybe a little bit cheaper, or what certain teams are a little cheaper?
No, the early stuff is going to be way more because McGwire, he only had a upper deck contract when his first his first autos came out. So yeah, they're really limited. Everything was serial numbered, and it was only for like 1 or 2 years. So in those 2 years, 2002 and 2003, he had a limited amount of autograph cards until 2014 when he finally signed a Topps deal, and that's when McGwire autographs became a little bit more affordable, but they haven't flooded the market, so they're still it can still be a little pricey compared to some other players.
He does seem to be someone who is reserved, kind of brought out for those big time products that they usually bring out a lot of the legends for, from my experience as well. I know that you focus mostly on current day, or excuse me, playing day cards. How about the
Hmm.
playing day cards since he signed his deal with Topps? Do you enjoy picking up those when you do get them? I know that they're not necessarily a focus, but I know that you do have quite a few in your collection.
Yeah, no, I love the cards. I really do. I like them a lot. I just I tend to not spend as much money on them. I'll pick them up if it's a good looking card, but the playing day stuff is just yeah, is definitely going to be my main focus.
What types of modern sets do you like to see McGuire cards in? So for 2019 or 2018 products, would you say?
Um, Refractors. So
The
those
shiny.
are always, yeah, the shiny stuff. I tend to like that just if it's a good looking card. So um, I do like the dynasty stuff. I mean, there's some good looking patch autos and that type of thing, but they get pretty pricey. And if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'd kind of rather get something that's pretty rare from the 90s.
Right,
It's
definitely.
just personal preference. So.
Moving into kind of just a general thing about McGuire. So, what would you say are the key cards to collect if you're a Mark McGwire collector? For anyone out there who might be looking to start a player collection, or anyone who is currently a McGwire collector, what are like your essentials?
You know what? I actually got them out so that I could
Perfect.
actually show you. But obviously, if you're gonna super collect Mark McGwire, you gotta have the rookies, and you gotta have the regular one, and you gotta get a Tiffany. That's for sure. Those are must-haves. Um, you're gonna want to get the three from his rookie year, which aren't necessarily considered. Well, some people will consider them rookies. Different people. Some people will tell you he's only got one true rookie, but you got to get all the 87 cards too, which will feature him in his A's uniform. So the first Tops, first Dunruss, and first Fleer. Those are must-haves. I think you should get the Desert Shield card. That's a
Classic.
great card. Yeah, kind of tough, pretty tough to find. Um, I could be wrong, but I think this is his first serial numbered card. So numbered to 10,000. But yeah, I think that's a must-have. It's numbered to 10,000, but this card's a lot tougher to find than you would think. There's probably only one copy up on eBay at a time. I think you should have a 93 Finest refractor because that's kind of the set that started it all of the higher end stuff. Having maybe his first relic card. This would be from 99 Black Diamond. So, and then you got to get his first pack issued auto, which if you get anything from 2002 SP, there's about I don't know, he's got about 10, 15 different looking cards in that set, but in all of them in O2 SP will be his first pack issued autographs. So that's what I think are the must-haves.
Okay. So with that, this might have some overlap with it, but what would you say are the Mount Rushmore of your collection for Mark McGwire cards? So the top 4 that you personally have.
Okay, so actually they won't overlap. But I mean, they very could have. This was a tough decision. There was 3 that were a no-brainer that you and I had already talked about. You already know what 3 of those were going to be. And you limited me, so I had to narrow it down to 4. And I kind of cheated a little bit because I think these 2 cards are kind of the same. So I'm actually showing 5. But these would be the Donruss and Leaf blue chips, and these are super rare cards, man. You're not going to see a whole lot of people that have these, and so that's number 4, the pair, the Leaf and Donruss version. And then we'll go with this one. Oh shoot, this glare is really bad. I apologize, but it'd be the Donruss Red Crusade, numbered to 25. Love that card. My most recent pickup, this was a really big deal. It's not a card I thought I'd ever own. And that would be the 98 Bowman Chrome Golden Anniversary. And that's, man.
The version without me on the card I hear is a little bit more rare.
You see that? You said the version with you on it? That's pretty funny. I guess they can check out my channel if they want to see. There we go. That's
yeah.
A little bit. See a better picture of that. And then probably my favorite card would be the 96 Select Mirror Gold, which the big deal about this card is I was still collecting at this time, and I remember when these came out, and it was just, you know, I was 19 years old. I didn't think I was ever going to own that card. You know, it was a card that had a serial number or had a print run of 30 at that time was like unheard of, you know. So
right, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of shine in that portion there, and it's great.
There is. Out of my
A lot
favorites,
of you got this year as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the year is not over, and
no
more cards I know that you're looking at. So what are some bucket list cards that you have to add to your collection later on down the line?
Okay, there's 2 that I really want, and my buddy Eric Titanic Taters and Smitty are actually going after the same card, so we need to figure that out. But they'll probably get first dibs at it. But it's the 97 gold embossed refractor from Finest. So yeah, you know the story on that one. One just surfaced. However, it's they want a little much for it, so we'll leave it at that. I think I'll wait around for the price to be realistic. And then the other card that I want just as much, if not more, to tell you the truth, is the 2001 Donruss Classics. It's a relic card, and the reason I want this card so badly is because it actually has a piece of a baseball, but it's the first card I know of that actually states exactly which ball it is. And I don't remember the number, which home run it was, but it's a home run he hit in 1998. So it was one of the 70 home runs. I just, you know, to be able to own a piece of one of those, I think is a pretty big deal. So
I would agree. There's not too many players out there where you will get a piece like that is from a specific accomplishment that they achieved.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of player collections are very common among 90s and 2000s players, not so much among this decade yet. A lot of those guys just don't have the tenure where they've developed enough of a following to have a super collector, but more so just people who are investing in them. But it's very interesting to see some of the player-specific cards and what they do with them. But McGwire definitely has one of those really unique ones that I would say is not necessarily exclusive to him, but you're going to be hard pressed to find someone who has something equivalent, probably.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know of any. I would like to hear about them if there are some other cards like that.
So now you guys know a little bit more about Eric, and I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning or not, but you can see his channel name down there, Oakland A's 915. So he also has a channel on YouTube. He shows off all of his McGwires. So if you want to see any of the ones that you just saw, he's got videos on all of them on his channel, and you can go check them out, as well as for future videos on his Mark McGwire PC, as well as his Oakland A's PC that he does. So you can go check that out here. But for now, we're going to get into the main event discussion today, which is tips for super collecting. And what I think is really cool about having Eric as the guest here on this first episode is that we have two very different approaches, I would say, to building our super collections, where his is more focused on collecting the rarer cards and not necessarily going for the most that he can get, where mine at the moment is more so oriented towards getting a higher number of unique cards and kind of filling out pages in my binder. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate, except that I actually think you do a nice mix of it. I think you do, you know, I think you're doing what a beginning, or not a beginning, but maybe a newer player collector should do, and that's, not necessarily focus on one thing or the other. And I think you get a nice variety of doing your count, and also getting to some higher end stuff, the rare stuff.
I really do like having the mix, and you talk about that being someone for a newer collector, and I would consider myself. It's only been 3 months, believe it or not, since I really started my count. Yeah.
Oh man,
If you look at where I was then to compared to now, it's kind of my collection.
You're not messing around. You're not messing around, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, but what would you say for someone who's first starting out? How do you go about getting that type of mix? Do you think for getting a good variety of lower end cards that you can use to kind of boost up your count, but at the same time also get some of those cards that are, I guess, more so on that key cards, or maybe some Mount Rushmore cards?
I think, yeah, it's real important to budget and see what you're going to do, experiment and see what you really like. Because I really like relic cards a lot, but it's funny because people tell me all the time, like, I normally don't like relics, but that's a cool card. I hear that a lot. And then relic cards are not for everybody, I don't have a lot of autos, so I think you just got to experiment and see what you're really into. Maybe there's a certain brand that you gravitate towards more than others, so you gotta do a little experimenting for a while, see what you enjoy collecting, because that's what it's all about, is having fun with this.
Would you say that you can get a lot of inspiration from people who collect players, well, the same player, or if they don't collect the same player, people who collect players from a similar era? For example, for me, I personally don't know any Miguel Cabrera super collectors that are still very active in picking stuff up, so I don't really have anyone to communicate with and get ideas on. The best thing that I can do is that there's a gentleman who's probably watching this. His name is I Collect Ichiro, and Ichiro started in 2001. Cabrera started in 2003, and Ichiro just retired this year. So they have a lot of similar cards between all the sets from 2001 to 2000, even 2019 now. And that's kind of something that I've used as my basis to kind of scout out various cards that maybe I don't have, or cards that, vice versa for him as well. So is there any other collectors that you really kind of like take a look at what they have as potential inspiration for what you want to get?
Absolutely. There's quite a few guys that there's a Facebook group, a 90s Facebook group. And I constantly see cards that I like from that group. And if I'm not familiar with it, I'll go and check and see if McGwire might have a card in that set. And so I absolutely get inspiration that way. Also fellow YouTubers. I tend to the channels I tend to enjoy most are the player collectors. So I would absolutely say they're influential on the way you collect.
McGwire happens to be probably one of the more popular players to collect from what I have experienced and just seeing who people collect. I know that a lot of the 90s stars are up there. What's interesting about McGwire is that right now he's not currently in the Hall of Fame. Now he is in the 500 home run club, which will automatically generate intrigue. I'd say that's true for any member of the 500 home run club. What would you say, though, makes McGwire so popular that he is up there with the Jeters or the Griffeys or the Bonds in terms of collectability and the number of people collecting him?
Well, 1998 had a lot to do with it because, 70 home runs. I mean, him and Sammy Sosa, really revived baseball at that time. So, I mean, it was crazy. I had never seen anything like that in baseball before. So I think that has a lot to do with it. The 1998 home run chase, but I mean, I saw McGwire go through a lot of ups and downs in his career as well. It seems like about 10 years ago, his cards were way, way down, and it seemed like a lot of people were kind of over it. They were a little angry with him, perhaps, and it seems like people are kind of forgiving that era right now, and so it seems like his cards are a little bit more coming back up. So,
Since it is such a diverse market with a lot of people buying in, since you also have Oakland fans, you have St. Louis fans who will also be interested,
yeah.
as well as set builders or anyone who just likes to collect rare cards in general. How do you navigate a market that has that much competition in it for some of these cards, especially the ones that are very rare and are ones that are very coveted by so many different collectors?
You got to be prepared for those rare cards. I specifically budget just for those cards, and when I save up a certain amount of money, it's so that I have in mind that it's for that card, and so it doesn't mean I'm going to go and spend that money on a whole bunch of base cards. I kind of let that money just sit there, and so when the time comes, I can get pretty aggressive with my bidding. And this year, it seemed to work in my favor. I haven't lost a whole lot of McGwire auctions. So.
Yeah, you've had a pretty good year. I think that there's no denying that, and it's only August, so I'm not going to even sell it short there. I'm sure there's something coming here. We have a third of the year to go. It's kind of crazy to think about that. So you are going after a lot of the rare cards. For me, I'll show you guys what I got in today. Here's one stack, and there's a lot here. 2 stacks. Cabrera I bought off of COMC, which is a really good resource for building up your cards and getting some of these lower end ones, like some of these right here that are more so just numbered cards or lower end inserts and stuff for a pretty reasonable price, like less than you would probably find at maybe $1 box at a local card shop, or definitely less than what you would find on eBay. And the combined shipping is what really helps you save on that. So I know that you have some experience using COMC for some of the more common stuff. Are there any other resources that you use to get your common cards that kind of helps you out with being able to save for the rarer cards?
Yeah, I'll buy cards from different dealers on Beckett Marketplace sometimes, and I'll price match. I'll see if it's cheaper to buy the cards there or on eBay or COMC. It's usually one of those three. But Beckett Marketplace is also a good place because you got a lot of different dealers on there. So when you're trying to maybe narrow down a specific card, then helps to have more resources and be able
You
to
do a lot of
price.
trading too there, right?
I'm sorry?
You do a lot of trading with Beckett Marketplace?
Yeah, I do. It's just, I trade for a lot of the non-Mac stuff, a lot of the A's PC stuff I trade for. It tends to be a lot of base cards on that, which are really fun and nice, but It's a lot harder for me to get McGwire's through trading on there.
Right. So Eric uses Beckett Marketplace time to time to trade. I use Trading Card Database, which is very similar. It's Trading Card Database is a free service where I believe Beckett you have to have the subscription to be able to access the marketplace. Am I right on that for the trading aspect?
Yeah, you're exactly right about that.
Okay. So that's kind of something that I do is I will use cards that I have in-house. So I have boxes behind me that are just full of cards that I put up for trade, and that way I can trade the cards that I already have. They're basically collecting dust with collectors of sets, teams, other player collectors, whatever the case may be. And if they have stuff for my Cabrera collection that I don't have, a lot of times it will be the more common stuff, but it's better to get that using basically the cost of a stamp, because a lot of times you can just send it PWE and using what you already have. So what kind of cards do you normally trade when you do trade on Beckett Marketplace that are good for making trades with?
Oh man, oh you know what? Most of my life I've done this, and I will trade anybody that's not in an A's uniform away. I don't care. Like when most of my life when I've gotten like say a King Griffey Jr. in a pack or something, I don't see a Griffey something I'm going to hang on to. I've always seen it as how what Mark McGwire's can I get for this card? That's the way I look at it. Like now Trout, I'll trade any of those away. Anybody that's hot at the moment that I can get some A's cards, or especially Mark McGwire's. That's what I'm trading away.
You mentioned Trout, who is definitely one of the hottest names right now. And I think just about everybody probably has some kind of Trout collection. It might just be a couple of cards that they set aside. But whenever you get a Trout, it's something, if you're opening a pack or something, you make note of it. He's just that good, that sought after. So if you're someone who's looking to start a player collection and you're going to choose one of these big stars right now, maybe you're a younger collector and this is kind of who you're growing up with, like a Trout or an Acuna, how would you recommend navigating that market? It's probably going to be very fierce competition and the prices are going to be very high compared to some of the players that are collected more commonly.
You're 100% right about that, because unfortunately, like if you were going to try and like super collect like a Mike Trout, you better have some deep pockets, because there's going to be some cards that are kind of like must-haves or some really sought-after cards that you're just going to have to shell out some serious cash to get. So I think it's pretty important to kind of pick a player that you're going to be able to that is within your budget, if that makes any sense. I think you want to pick a star player, but I don't think you want to pick somebody that's totally out of your price range either. Pick a star player so that you have plenty of cards to pick from.
You also have some smaller PCs of players. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, they're all A's players. It started kind of I used to have or not, I still have, but I used to collect Ricky Henderson as a side PC growing up. Then I also collected Jason Giambi for a while. I collected a lot of those Giambi cards when they were super expensive in the late 90s. Let's see, Eric Chavez. I mean, he was with the A's for a long time, so I have a pretty decent amount of Chavez cards. And then the last few years, I've really gotten into collecting Chris Davis, Matt Olson, and Matt Chapman, because they're seems like it's a very exciting A's team to me right now, and it seems like this group of players is going to stick around for a while. So I can see collecting a lot of their cards.
So you have a lot of players that you do like and that you do collect cards of, but McGwire is definitely your number one. So how do you navigate collecting multiple players while keeping your focus on Mark McGwire? Because I know that a lot of people out there might have a hard time picking one player to collect, but they'll probably at least have a main player to collect.
Right. I would say 95 of my 95% of my budget goes towards Mac. A lot of the other cards you see me pick up of other players is from a lot of trading and cards that I'll throw in on orders that I've gotten from McGwire. I'll kind of see what other cards a seller might have, and they're um, I tend to collect cheaper cards of the other players that I collect. I don't really collect anything high end, so it's not that much budget to work with.
Right. Do you ever find yourself maybe moving towards one of those players more so and shifting kind of your interests from time to time?
You know what? That absolutely happens. That does happen. Every once in a while, I'll kind of get a little burnt out on just picking up McGuire's, and I was kind of doing that last year. I was really picking up a lot of the three players, Matt Olson, Chris Davis, and Matt Chapman. I was having a lot of fun and excited about that. And then after a while, I was still picking up McGuire's, of course, and then took a little smaller break, and then right back in it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Don't want to burn yourself out.
Definitely. Having variety is good and a good way to do that. A lot of the super collectors that you'll see on this podcast, if you follow it for future episodes, very seldom do their collections only consist of that one player. A lot are also collectors of certain teams. For example, Eric is a collector of the Oakland Athletics. For me, I'm a collector of the Detroit Tigers, but we do have focuses on our, hey, I've got it somewhere, that ball. Hang on.
Oh man.
Yeah, never forget. Never forget.
Oh,
I had to do it.
is that the Maglio home run? Maglio year?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Go
Okay.
use that clip for me, everybody.
I deserved it.
There's some specifics working on certain players and targeting certain things. Let's talk about the key cards. So you showed off kind of the essentials for Mark McGwire cards. A lot of times those are going to be your rookies, or sometimes they'll be a little bit rare. How would you say how would you personally navigate the market to picking up one of those cards that you're looking to try to get your player's rookie?
Oh man. Well, you gotta budget it and get it when the price is right for you. If it's super rare, you may want to get it as soon as possible because there's a good, there's chances that you won't see that card again. That does happen. That's the big reason I like to collect that rare stuff right away. It's because I tend to worry that I won't see it.
One big thing that a lot of super collectors like to collect are rainbows. So a rainbow is when you collect all of the variations of one card. So for example, in Topps Chrome, usually you're going to have a base, a refractor. And now in recent years, they've done like the prismatic refractors or the X-fractors that are non-numbered parallels. Then you have oranges, greens, purples, blues, all of which usually have like a wave with them. And then a lot of times you will have the superfractor in Topps products, which is the one of one. Sometimes there will be printing plates, depending on the product. Those are often not included in the rainbow, but they are sometimes, if you can get your hands on all four, which is very difficult to do, included. For some collectors, I've seen it, but for the most part, it's generally not considered a part of the rainbow. It's really something when it comes together like that. And on the Panini side, they have some more obscure type of parallels, but they're kind of superfractor equivalent is the one of one black finite, which is a very stunning parallel. So how would you recommend going about building a rainbow if you're trying to build one of your players, say that they have a card in a set that you really enjoy?
You know what? If it's a newer player in a modern product, you're going to want to get a lot of that stuff when the product is released because it's just going to be a lot easier to find it that way. I didn't, I'm speaking from experience because I decided too late that I was going to try and get all of those 84 looking McGwires that they released this year. I decided that I wanted to try and put that rainbow together, and so it's really 6 months too late. They're a lot harder to find now than they probably were the first few weeks when the product was released.
I definitely agree with that. From my own experience is that there will be a lot of cards. If your player has a card at a new set, the market will be flooded on release day. And what I will normally do is I will wait until the first auction cycle ends. So usually what I'll do is a lot of people will join group breaks these days to get a lot of cards, or they'll wait for their orders to come in from Blowout or wherever they're getting their wax from. They open it up, and then usually in about 7 days after they open it up, then their eBay auctions end from the stuff that they list. So then if you wait until the second wave, a lot of those prices will dip the second time through. So that's kind of one of my tips for what I do if you're looking for a current player. One of your rainbows that is extremely impressive is one card that you've already shown is the Crusades. What is your
Okay.
for those types of rainbows that have been out for a while now? If you're collecting a player, let's say from the 90s, and some of those rainbows are a little bit tougher to come by.
What's my advice for that?
Yeah.
Constantly search. Like, you got to really stay on top of it, because I've seen where the card is literally on eBay for maybe a couple of hours. There's some of them are that popular. So you gotta constantly be searching. You got to make sure you have some money ready to spend. That you got to have your budget. It's better, and yeah, I guess that's just being prepared like that for because you never know when that some of those cards are gonna surface. So just be prepared.
I know that you're not a one of one guy. I have a couple in my collection, and I kind of know what my answer to this is, but I'm curious if you were, say, given any set that you could think of, if you had the one of one Mark McGwire, if it's a super factor or whatever, would you be more enticed or more obligated to try to go after that rainbow, having already tracked down the one of one?
Oh, absolutely, definitely, no doubt about it. I actually, it's funny you bring that up, because I actually, I have the one of one, and I actually did put it together a rainbow, exactly the way you're talking about it. In 2017, I got this McGwire autograph, and it's a one of one, and this was the first one I bought. So I thought it was cool because it's like a picture of his walk-off home run in 1988. I remember watching that game against the Dodgers. So when that one of one popped up, that's when I decided that well, I can get the rest of them, because I already got the hardest one. So I got the one numbered to 50, the one numbered to 25, and then the one that took the longest for me to find, which was the 10. And it wasn't even that long. It was only took me like a year to find that one.
Yeah.
But that's exactly why I put that rainbow together, because I got the one.
The out of fives and the out of tens can sometimes be a lot harder and a lot more frustrating than the one of one, because there's more of them available and you think that they'd be easier to find, but a lot of times that is not the case, just because they're, especially in modern products, because there is so much of it produced that the odds of finding it in a pack and then finding that specific player are very, very astronomical. So you kind of have to have a lot of things go right with that. One more note on the rainbows. So one of ones in a world that is very dominated and driven by eBay completed listing sales, there is really no price guide for a one of one card. There's no precedent for what it is previously sold for, unless there was something like a non-paying bidder, but those cases are few and far in between. What would you recommend taking your approach into bidding on a one of one card if it goes up to auction?
You're going to want to look at players that kind of sell for about the same price, and look and see what their cards, if any of their one of ones have sold for. You can go about that route, or just see what other cards in that product have probably sold for. So, or if the player had one of ones sell in the past, you can go off of that as well. Like, maybe it's not that particular one of one, but what if their one of ones sold for? So
one more thing that we'll discuss here with this topic of building a super collection is kind of the end game with your player. So for me right now, my player is still currently playing, and there's still
Mhm.
more for him to obtain for Miguel Cabrera. You're still looking at the potential for 500 home runs and 3,000 hits, and most likely an induction into the Hall of Fame. Your player is a little bit more kind of caught in between, and I guess we'll talk about this question really quickly here. Is that McGwire is of course linked to the steroid controversy, but there's been a growing support for a lot of steroid users to get into the Hall of Fame, in particular Barry Bonds being one of them. If Bonds would be inducted in the Hall of Fame at any point in time, and McGwire is not in at that point in time, what would you say the likelihood of McGwire then getting into the Hall of Fame would be?
I hate to say this, but I don't really count on Mark getting in, and one reason is because he came out and admitted that he used steroids. Um, Barry Bonds has never admitted to it, and he was never he never tested positive for anything. So there's no hard evidence against him. How's
Right.
that?
Say that McGwire, though, was inducted into the Hall of Fame, or that you collect a player that will be inducted one day. So, talking about some of the guys who maybe retired recently, like an Ichiro or a Beltre, or some of those Hall of Fame prospects that we see in the game now like a Pujols or a Cabrera. How important is it to know what the end game is for your player?
Oh man, that's I think that's super important. I mean, it's a dream come true. I mean, that's definitely going to affect the prices of the players' cards without a doubt. Players' popularity, and if they get into a Hall of Fame, it makes them even more desirable to collect. So you probably will see an increase in the prices of the cards. You'll see a big spike for a while too. That always tends to happen. People right around the time they get inducted, you'll see the top peak of what the players' prices, but then they kind of go back down a little bit afterwards.
There are
Right
some
now,
anomalies with that too, of some guys that aren't necessarily with McGwire. You do have the home run chase of '98, which is a lot of the reason for his popularity. But there are some guys who are also pretty heavily collected, such as a Will Clark or a Don Mattingly, guys who may or may not have a shot at a Hall of Fame induction on a veterans committee of some sort. We'll see on that. A lot of players who were kind of a fringe candidate before are now kind of getting the push to get in. What makes a Mattingly or a Will Clark so popular and still so popular today?
you know what? It's because our generation, it's all about the nostalgia of it. And Mattingly and Will Clark were, I mean, two really popular players in the '80s. So guys that are like my age are they want to collect a lot of the cards and that they used to have or they always wanted to have. There's a lot of McGuires that I wanted before that I couldn't afford, and now I can. Now I got the funds to buy some of those cards. So that's the way I see that.
We'll move into our closing segment here to kind of get some wrap up thoughts. So, Eric, one big question I have for you is what makes you super collect?
What makes me? Oh man, I just you know what I got this addictive personality, and you know, and I'm also a kind of like a little OCD about finishing things. So, and I'm like always the type of person I got to have like everything. I can't just have. If I start a rainbow, it's like I feel like I need to finish it. I need to collect all the cards, or it's kind of it'll start to bug me if I don't have all of them. So that and it's just being a big fan of Mac growing up, and so it's just it's just a lot of fun for me. It's all about the fun and enjoyment of the hobby.
That's very important. I would say if you're not having fun super collecting whoever you are, then you might need to reconsider who you are
Yes,
collecting.
absolutely. Yeah, if you're not having fun with it and you're not collecting for the right reasons, then why do it?
Any final thoughts from you on super collecting tips, or anything else for that matter?
Yeah, well, kind of like what you just started talking about. Like, let's just make sure you're having fun with the hobby, and you don't need to stress about it. You got a lot of time in your life to collect. You don't have to get everything right now. I told that to somebody recently. I said, what if you had all of that player's cards already? You wouldn't be enjoying that. So enjoy the collecting, enjoy the hunting for the rare cards, and yeah, you got plenty of time in your life to obtain all of them. So,
Well, Eric, I want to thank you very much for coming on the debut episode here of the Super Collectors podcast. I had a blast talking to you about super collecting.
JT, I appreciate it. I'm really honored that you had me on, and especially being the first guest. I mean, that I appreciate it, man.
We got to lead off strong. You're my Luis Urias.
Right on. Right on, buddy.
So Eric's channel is Oakland A's 915. This video is about to wrap up, so that means it's a perfect time for you to go check out his channel. If I remember, I'll put it in the end annotations here. That's usually 50-50 if I remember to do that, but I'll at least leave a link in the description down below to his channel, so you can go check it out, see all of the Mark McGwires that you pick up. If you want to see more about my Miguel Cabrera collection, you can feel free to check out some of the various videos on my channel. We're both pretty active, so we're always adding new stuff in, so you can always check that out. But we also have a pretty good archive of videos as well, so oh geez, I almost made it through without stuttering. Feel free to go check out any of the past videos that we have done. If you have any suggestions for future guests on the Super Collector podcast, or anyone who you would like to see, or any topics discussed, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below, or reach out in any of the platforms that I usually leave in the link of the description of my videos. I'm going to go ahead and cut the broadcast here, but Eric, once again, thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who watched, especially if you made it to this point. Gold star for everyone who made it to the end. Thank you again, Eric.
All right. Thank you, JT.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.